2023 is barely halfway through and it's already produced some truly stonking cinema. In terms of horror, the genre has seen some great releases. Scream and Evil Dead made their triumphant returns, with standalone pictures like Beau is Afraid and Infinity Pool also making a splash. Unfortunately, as Isaac Newton once said, every good horror movie has an equal and opposite bad horror movie. That's definitely how the quote went, right? Well, with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with the 10 worst horror movies of 2023 so far. Number 10, We Have a Ghost. Comedy horrors aren't easy to get right. They can create a disconnect by their very nature, which means that they have to be handled very carefully in order to achieve the desired balance between funny and bloody. This balance was not achieved by Christopher Landon's We Have a Ghost. The brains behind Happy Death Day take a sideways glance at the traditional haunted house narrative in this Netflix film starring Stranger Things' David Harbour and the MCU's Anthony Mackie. Upon moving into their new home, the Presley family, no relation to Elvis, probably, discovered that an amnesiac spectre is haunting them. It's up to the humans to find out about the ghost's past in order to lay him to rest. Whilst We Have a Ghost did some things right, it didn't quite nail everything it tried to do. It attempted to combine a scary ghost story with a slapstick comedy with a feel-good redemption arc, and ended up watering down all of those elements in the process. It had its moments, but the movie sadly fell short of what it could have been. We're not angry, we're just disappointed. Number 9, The Pope's Exorcist. Sometimes it's okay to enjoy a film for all the wrong reasons. Wrong reasons in this context means Russell Crowe's hilarious Italian accent. In this sort of true story, Big Russ takes on the mantle of Father Gabriele Amorth, a man who claimed to have performed thousands of exorcisms in Rome. Thankfully, audiences weren't made to sit through that many rituals, as Amorth comes up against just the one possessed boy in this film. Is there much to separate this story from every other exorcism movie? Well, no, not really. It's a pretty straightforward affair as Father Amorth goes back and forth on how to rip the wretched demon from the youngster's body. There's nothing inherently wrong with the plot, it just isn't very original. And then there's Russell. Crowe's imposing screen presence certainly helps add gravitas to such a big role, but this hopeless attempt at copying the priest's voice completely detracts from all of that. If you're after big, silly, horror-infused fun, with a hint of pantomime acting thrown in, then you might enjoy The Pope's Exorcist. If you're looking for anything other than those things, then I'd say stay well away. Number 8, The UNHEARD. In 2019, director Jeffrey A. Brown made his feature-length debut with The Beach House. Set around the concept of an infectious disease carried by fog, the movie got strong reviews and set Brown up for future success. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what happened. The director followed The Beach House up with The UNHEARD, which was released on Shudder in March. It stars Lachlan Watson as a young woman with hearing loss who undergoes experimental surgery to restore her missing sense. The surgery is a success, but Watson's character is then bombarded by audio hallucinations that might have something to do with her missing mother. This is a decent concept, but one that was executed poorly. Watson's performance isn't strong enough to carry the film as its lead, which makes it hard to get invested in her plight. The UNHEARD also attempts to combine two concurrent narratives, and sadly this doesn't always come off. Whilst not a total disaster, fans of Brown's first film were definitely disappointed by his return to filmmaking. Hopefully, third time is the charm for him, otherwise his career might fall silent. Number 7, Consecration. Christianity is at the forefront of this shoddy horror picture directed by Black Death's Christopher Smith. Consecration sees Jenna Malone playing Grace, a woman searching for answers after the death of her clergyman brother. A visit to the Isle of Skye quickly unearthed some disturbing truths about the order he represented. Every horror movie needs a good hook, according to some people, and this one tried to market itself on the fact that it was full of killer nuns. You know, that totally new concept that hasn't been done before, especially not by a film literally called The Nun. Consecration had a lot of ingredients that could have made it work. A strong cast, a spooky location, a solid set of antagonists. Unfortunately, this was very much a case of something being less than the sum of its parts. The movie plodded along with no real urgency, almost as if it expected its worn-out tropes to be good enough on their own. If you're looking for reasons to watch this movie, then you could say there are none. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Number 6, Fear. You have to hand it to the team behind this one for taking the bold approach of literally naming a horror movie after the emotion it wants audiences to feel. That'd be like calling a comedy funny or a Michael Bay movie confused and upset. Fear is the work of director Dion Taylor, who gave the world 2016's Meet the Blacks. It follows an author and his girlfriend as they take a vacation at a secluded lodge. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. Sadly, like all vacations in horror movies, this one does not end well. Oh, surprise, surprise! The movie soon becomes a tired retread of the pandemic. The inhabitants of the lodge get sick based on their own phobias, and chaos ensues from there. For a film named after and about the concept of fear itself, there's just one glaring problem. It isn't very scary. Jump scares are visible from miles away, most of the characters are hard to invest in, and the whole thing feels like it's only giving out half of what it should. There's no doubt that Dion Taylor is a talented filmmaker, but let's just hope he doesn't have a phobia of producing subpar horrors as well. Number 5, Snow Falls. Oh good, another haunted cabin story. Because we definitely didn't already have too many of those. If you couldn't already tell from its title, the white fluffy stuff plays a key part in Colton Tran's Snow Falls. A group of friends end up stuck in a snowstorm on New Year's Eve, attempting to fend off madness as their time in the cabin grows longer and longer. To be honest, being stuck on New Year's Eve with a bunch of pals sounds great. I'm not sure what they're complaining about. Horror cinema has come a long way since the first slashers came out, and audiences are a lot less accepting of cliché-riddled copycats. Sadly for Snow Falls, that's precisely what it is. All of the characters can be summed up in 2-word phrases: party boy, wannabe influencer, fraidy cat, and the plot device of "is this all happening in their minds?" just isn't interesting enough anymore. As a result, Snow Falls rolls along without causing much of a fuss until it suddenly just ends. It does nothing to grip its viewers, most of whom will struggle to stay awake. Fortunately, it's only 79 minutes long, so it won't waste much of your time. Number 4, Nefarious. Nefarious starred Entourage's Jordan Belfry as a psychiatrist who has to work out if a criminal is genuinely possessed by a demon. Cue a film stuffed to the gills with overtly religious messages as the staunchly atheist shrink has his lack of faith challenged. There's nothing wrong with doing a faith-based horror, but this one handles its subject matter so clumsily. It also leans into some troubling ideas, such as implying that abortion amounts to murder. It doesn't help that the two leads, who make up most of the film's action, are pretty boring. At the end of the day, their characters can be reduced to man who is possessed by demon and man who is not possessed by demon. Simplicity can be effective sometimes, but not here. Number 3, Children of the Corn. Adaptations of Stephen King books never go wrong. There's The Shining, Carrie, It, Firestarter, Cell, Maximum Overdrive, you get the idea. One King story that has received several big screen versions is Children of the Corn, which tells the tale of an evil entity that compels the youth of a small town to murder all the adults. Prior to 2020, there had been 10 different films in the franchise. Despite none of them being particularly good, director Kurt Wimmer decided to add to this cursed canon. The new version, which was first shown in 2020 but only released in cinemas in 2023, changes up the formula slightly but mainly sticks to the whole killer children brief of the other films. Also, like the other films, this one sucks. Nothing about Children of the Corn is particularly scary or exciting. It also haphazardly attempts to bring social commentary into the mix, failing to bring home any of the messages it set out with. Even in the face of the lowest of low expectations, 2023's Children of the Corn came up short. Now, for the love of God, can we please burn this hideous crop to the ground and salt the earth? Number 2, The Black Demon. 2018's The Meg proved that there was still an appetite out there for big dumb creature movies. Jason Statham vs. Big Shark did well enough to get a sequel, which is currently in cinemas now. Clearly trying to capitalise on Meg fever, someone decided to put out another giant shark movie in April. The Black Demon, directed by Rambo Last Blood's Adrian Grunberg, is about an oil company worker sent to Mexico to check on a rig. Whilst there, the drilling platform gets attacked by a massive seaborne beastie, and it's up to those aboard to escape with their lives. Where do you want to start? Not only is this a blatant rip-off of a film that was pretty dreadful to begin with, The Black Demon also did a terrible job in stealing from its source material. Everything it did felt lesser than, a pale imitation of a pale imitation of a classic monster adventure. It wasn't gory enough to be captivating, wasn't witty enough to be clever, and certainly wasn't different enough to be memorable. There'll only be one shark movie everyone will be talking about come the end of the year. That's a guarantee. Number 1. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. On January 1st, 2022, the 1926 children's book Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne entered the public domain. Though the Disney version of the character is still very much the property of the House of Mouse, the original iteration of the beloved character was now fair game. So naturally, someone decided to turn him into a slasher villain. Why did they think that was a good idea? Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was directed by Rhys Frake Waterfield and hit cinemas in early 2023. It follows Christopher Robin upon his return to the 100-acre wood, where he discovers that his childhood friends have become bloodthirsty killers. Now this could have worked. Had Blood and Honey been self-aware enough about how ridiculous it was, then it could have been entertaining. Instead, the film takes itself bafflingly seriously and attempts to present the honey-obsessed bear as a genuine threat. Furthermore, the animals are just people in masks. And very clearly so. How was anyone expected to be frightened of Pooh when they could tell he was clearly just some bloke in a rubber suit? This film failed on every conceivable level and serves as a warning that just because you can do something, that doesn't mean you should. And that concludes our list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.